This is Paranormal, and it is Rachel
Yes.
and today's episode is all going to be about paranormal equipment and what we think is great, what we think is crap, and what we would like to try or whatever we can find, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's always a new piece of equipment or something coming on the market. So
Always, and it always seems to be something that you could probably make from the dollar store and not have to spend $400 getting it from the States.
very true. Like the cat balls that you can get on Amazon for $12.
Yeah. Yeah, or those light up candles.
Yes. All the things.
You know what? Some of that stuff is a really good idea. And you think you like, oh, why didn't I think of that? I could have made a lot of money.
I know. I'm still telling you, we need to remarket flour on the floor for the footsteps, but we'll call it like
ghost dust.
Spirit dust.
Yeah.
Ooh, and sell it for $150 an ounce.
That sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. So I guess it's a little update. Past weekend, we did another public event at Lang Pioneer Village, which was their All Hallows Eve event, spooky event. It was actually pretty cool. So thanks to everyone who came out and visited us and brought your kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not that scary. Lots of good stuff. So
excellent times.
Yeah. And then this episode's going to air the week before we do our next investigation. So that'll be cool. So I might have to talk about that a little next
Absolutely.
Very exciting. Yeah, and Halloween is this week for us and all that fun stuff.
I know, it's come up fast, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know where October went. I don't know where September went either, but you know, it is what it is.
Exactly. I think, well, my kids are older now anyways. Maybe when they were younger, it was more interactive for me. So all of a sudden I'm like, oh, what is happening? I do have my decorations up, of course, but.
Yeah. Our neighborhood, even Jay was just like, the neighbors down the street have decorations up and the paranormal investigators here don't.
Because we're too busy in the actual haunted places to do our own house.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of public events and equipment, we also had stuff go off last night too, just randomly. Just sitting at the table, no idea how, just going off. It was the REM pod.
How interesting.
Yeah, so that was something. Yeah. And then that spirit talker at was saying some it said Spanish donkey. Spanish donkey's not what you think it is. It is not a donkey from Mexico or Spain. It's torture. Literally.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Google Spanish donkey and then yeah.
I'm afraid to be honest with you. I'm afraid. I don't know what rabbit hole I'll go down.
Oh, that's like when it told me it said a heretic fork. And I had to Google that. And
yes.
That's a pretty awful torture device too.
Now, what era would a Spanish donkey form of torture be?
Definitely like in medieval times, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering, like, from the land, maybe? Is there something?
I really hope they weren't doing that on the land.
I don't know.
But I got that heretic's fork. I'm probably saying it wrong. That heretic, I don't know, fork. I got it at Lang's too. So
yes,
I don't know what they were doing on that land.
Maybe some poor witches were, I don't know,
maybe
taken over there.
Maybe
bizarre.
Weird, but oh well.
Well, it's always fun when we're doing an information session and our equipment starts going off randomly for no reason. And then we're more excited about it than the people that are like, oh, that's fun. And we're like, oh.
Little do you know, but we're not doing this. I don't have, I'm too lazy to make things off on their own. It's just
coolness.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's, speaking of equipment,
Yes. Segueing in,
yeah,
let's
trying,
talk equipment.
trying. But yeah, so equipment. We
Hmm.
have so many, like a variety of equipment for the paranormal seekers. Like you name
Hmm.
it, we have it. There's only like a few things on like you see on TV that we don't have, only
Hmm.
because it costs a lot of freaking money. But
Yeah.
we have a lot of stuff. Now, as when the team first started, literally all we started with was your regular, video cameras, and they were the ones where you stuck the tape in,
Oh, I love
rolled,
that.
and
Mm.
we
Yep.
filmed for whatever the 90 minutes it was, and then put another tape in.
Hmm.
And then we also had 35 millimeter cameras. So for anybody who's too young to know what that is, it's like real cameras with film, not digital. And we had an audio recorder and an EMF detector, not a K2 meter, an EMF detector.
Wow, you're like full on old school.
We're so old, so old. But yeah, so that was how we started with our equipment, and then we've kind of added to the arsenal, to the toolbox as the years went on. Um, I think I don't know what our next piece of equipment was. I think it was another EMF meter. I think it was that ghost meter with the little orange top. You press a
Mhm.
button, it would be like beep beep beep. Yeah, I think that was it.
Oh.
And then Paula came around
Oh, with her thermal camera,
with the
infrared camera.
thermal, with the infrared
Nice.
camera, which that's a really cool thing to see different
Yeah, that
things.
would have been like fairly new technology then, I feel like cutting edge.
It was older. They weren't as small. Like the machine that she had, it was heavy. Like you had to like,
Oh, she had a whole big oh my God.
yeah, they were huge. If I can find a picture of it, I'm pretty sure I have one somewhere.
It
You'd be
was like
like,
half the
"Ooh,"
size of her.
pretty
Ah,
much. Pretty much, we used to say that we had to get her a harness to hold it because that's how heavy it was.
I love it. I love it. But I mean, as technology changes, which is great, and we'll get into like the newer stuff that we have now.
Mhm.
I mean, at the end of the day, really, people have been capturing spirits on just regular old film for a long time.
Yeah, since like what,
So,
the 1800s or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah, see
Well,
this
whenever it was, I don't even know when photography was invented. We'll just pretend. But yeah, whenever the first ones were really out there being used, they were like, oh, what is this in the background?
Yeah. And then you get people like Mulmer photography who superimposed and added extra people to the photos to be like,
Mhm.
oh, you have a ghost, when really it
Yeah.
was just double exposure.
Right.
They're still
Oh,
super,
we used to do the double exposure thing. It was great.
yeah. Yeah. We didn't do it. I'm too lazy to do it. I don't know.
Not for ghosts. I just meant in general. Like you would pose one thing and then quickly move and then do another one.
Yeah.
Anyways, whatever.
Yeah.
90s. Hashtag whatever. Fun times.
Hashtag we're old. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah. So those were what we started with. And then we started adding like the Ovilus and more K2 meters, REM pods, and then so on and so forth. So, but yeah, so let's just talk about certain pieces of equipment because some people like them and some people don't, and some people think it's a joke and some people think it's legit. So, yeah, the K2
Hmm.
meters, they measure EMF, right? So, electromagnetic frequency. The lights
Hmm.
light up, sometimes they make noise. Um, Everything can trigger it, including your cell phone.
Yes. I think they're one of the things that's like a good kind of let's start off with something.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? In terms of practicality, I mean, you have to be right there or else, unless it's like when we were in the Keene Hotel and it went insane and you could hear it all
Mhm.
the way upstairs. But other than that, generally, you have to be there. And then I do find with them, you have to be a little bit more, okay, what's around that could be triggering it? Like you said, with the phones and even if it's too close to wiring and things.
Mhm.
but I think it's a great staple piece and it's affordable.
Yeah.
So it's one of the good first pieces people can get. And you
Yeah.
kind of feel like something's happening because then all of a sudden it lights up and you're like, woo, here we go.
True. True. True.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So like, okay, so let's stick with the lights right now. So we've got K2, and then we have, we'll say, the REM pod.
Hmm.
Now that one can be tricky. It can also be set off by phones and walkie-talkies and stuff like that. Like I've tried it with our little dinky walkie-talkies, but you got to be really close to it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think the REM pod is actually pretty cool. Except you need to know when it's dying because it will give you false readings.
Right.
I've learned that over the years.
That's a really excellent point.
Yeah.
It really is. And can you set that to different parameters too? So it has to be either really close or there's a different thing, or it's just has to be close.
It has to be close. It's the antenna
Okay.
that sets that parameter.
Hmm.
And then it just emits that field. So it's whatever comes in.
Now, I remember we had it set up, I think it was in Hinsdale, and we could hear it going off. And then later on, when I was reviewing the GoPro, there was a ton of moths and bugs flying around.
Mm-hmm.
So then it was left up to, we're not entirely sure, because there is a red light that stays lit in the middle, or,
Mm-hmm.
oh, sorry, there's like a light in the middle that stays lit. And we weren't sure if a bug was flying into it, triggering it or not. But for the most part, you got to be real close to that thing to touch it. And so if we're hearing it and we go over and there's nothing around and it's going off,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty impressive. And then when it goes disco light dance fever because all of the lights are going off and we're like, is something sitting on it? Like, what is happening?
That's the ultimate goal. And I think we've only had that at like one or two places. Definitely the place that shall not be named.
That was really interesting because we had two separate ones going off simultaneously, stopping simultaneously. That was phenomenal. I've never seen that before.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that more when we get to that episode.
Yes.
But yeah, okay. So REM pod in our books, I think, is a good tool. Other lights that we have. So let's go. Okay. They're not cat balls. We're going to call them
balls.
Yeah, ghost. Yeah.
No, spirit orbs. No.
Spirit
what did they call? Someone gave them a really good name and we forgot it already.
I know. Yeah. It was like
ghost orbs.
Ghost orbs or something. Ghost balls, sensors. They're cat toys. They light up when you move them. What do you think? I think
it's a tricky one.
It is a tricky one. Because anything can set them off, any type of vibration, right? So you got to make sure that whatever you're setting them on isn't going to vibrate if you're going to move around or if you're talking.
So sometimes they've impressed me because we've had them on a completely flush surface. They've gone off with another piece of equipment at the same time. And we've done the whole like stomping test and moving around and they haven't gone off. And then everyone's still and they go off. But other times we've had them and I know it's just someone walking by, which we own up to, right? It's not like we're like, ooh, yes, it was it. But then you're like, so you're right. I find they're another kind of like a K2. So you're like, ooh, but you need something else with it to make it. You know what I mean? Like you got to do the debunk first.
Yes.
To see if something set it off. But they are pretty neat. And we've had a few times where clearly the spirits have really liked them and nothing's moved and they've just gone off and come on and gone off and come on. And we're like,
we had that when we went to the Wellington Museum and Archives in Fergus. So the one room at the very top on the second floor, that used to be the men's quarters, because the Wellington Museum there used to be the county poor farm. It was called House of Industry and Refuge. So anybody who didn't work, men, women, anybody who had mental illness or a learning disability, stuff like that, were sent there, or not well, yeah, they were sent there because you had to be sponsored, if you want to call it,
Right.
to go there. And in the one back room, they had it kind of set up like an old farmhouse style because it's a museum now. They have like one exhibit where it's just about what the location was, but their other exhibits are different. So one was like an old farmhouse, like bedroom, kitchen with a barn. Um, and we took one of the cat balls and we set it on the bed, and then we all walked out into the other side of the room and just was hanging out, and it was going off. And we're talking like this ghost ball sensor. I'm not saying the other word because the phone likes to pick it up. Um, uh, it's sitting on like an old mattress with blankets, and it's nestled in, so it's not moving. It can't move on its own, and then it just starts blinking. So yeah, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So it's a good one, and they're relatively cheap.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but they're easy to lose. We started with 4, now we have 3.
Yeah. Somewhere there's one rolling around playing with the ghosts in the place.
Probably at Kawartha Settlers Village
Yeah.
somewhere. I'm sure we'll find it in a couple years.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. All right. So next on the lights, I would say, how about the flux too? So the triangle.
So, well, that was going off when we were doing our little booth at Lang's there. Interesting. And yeah, so that one has a sensor on either side, and it can, either light up to say something's near it, or you can use it green for yes, red for no. I don't know. That's a very hit and miss one. I don't know that I've been in a place that has had crazy activity, but some people love it. Some people on the team are like, it goes off for me all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And again, because it's a sensor, I don't know exactly how sensitive they are. So if something just breaks that thing, is it like just a bug flies by, does it go off? And we might not see the bug, but if it flies by.
Yeah.
But when it's doing it kind of with other equipment and on command, that's always like, oh, something maybe. But
it's not my favorite piece of equipment. I do like it, but it's not my favorite.
I find because when it does eventually go off, then I'm like, ooh, because I'm just like, whatever. But yeah, it's not the first pick for me. If you were like, pick one.
Yeah. All right. So now we have our 360-degree puck sensor. So it's like, it looks like a little UFO.
Yeah,
and
the alien
all the
thing.
way around it. So what'll happen is it will constantly scan the area, and if it picks up on movement, it will light up. It will beep to let us know it picked up on movement, and it will light up lights where it detected the movement on the puck. And then you can set this puck for like 1 foot, 3 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet type thing. We've had some interesting stuff with that one. We don't use it very often because a lot of places we go to are small, and we're all in areas, so it would defeat the purpose of using it because it would more than likely pick us up. But we did use it in Welland, and it definitely was picking stuff up there while we weren't even in the same room because we were able to set it up in a bigger room while we were all in a different one. So it's very interesting, that one, because it does light up, right? So yeah. And have you ever seen it? Have we ever had it? Yeah.
We've had it a few times. I mean, at Kawartha in the barn, I think we've had it. You're right. You need a bigger space, but we haven't had it. I'm trying to think. Yeah, we don't get it out that much.
No.
So maybe it needs to be brought out of retirement once in a while. I don't know, but it is. Yeah. Next time we go, we'll be like, come on, little guy, your turn.
My little UFO.
Yeah.
That's what everyone calls it, the UFO. Oh my gosh. And then we have the tripwire lights. Now, those, if you don't know what a tripwire is, it's a very long set of lights. And ours is 36 feet long because, had to get the biggest one out
Mhm.
there. Ryan. Anyways, but they're like little EMF, like K2 lights that go all the way down. So they start off at purple. But when I was reading about them, actually the color is supposed to be pink. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure that's purple.
yeah.
So yeah, but it's like purple, blue, green, yellow, red, orange, I think it goes. So kind of like what you would see on like a K2 meter, um,
Hmm.
minus purple, pink. Um, but yeah, so they work just like an EMF. So if it picks up an energy, magnetic energy, it'll change color.
Hmm.
And that's good for like going up and down stairs or down long hallways or circling people while they do the Estes method.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting piece, I think, in our toolbox. It's one of my favorites. Just to see.
Well, I mean, it's hard to top my very first investigation with you guys when Ryan did his Estes in the general store at Quarters, and the whole thing blew up and just stayed lit up, and we were all like, "Wow!" Like
That was pretty awesome.
that was insane.
I almost wish at that point Ryan wasn't wearing a blindfold because when he took it off, he was like, I heard you guys all go,
Yeah.
"Whoa."
Did anything happen? And we're like, "Oh, yes."
What didn't happen?
Yeah, that was phenomenal.
It
And
was.
again, with those lights, like I really like them, and I think we get really great
Mm-hmm.
interaction with them. And because they're so long, like you said, we can stretch them sometimes between room. And I remember Myrtle House, is that what it's called? No. What was that one in Brentford?
Yeah,
I
Myrtle.
think, okay.
Yeah, Myrtleville.
And we had it like between, because the upstairs rooms had walkways, so you could almost make a
Mm-hmm.
big circle away. And something came out of one room, across the hallway, and into the other room. And you saw the lights. Do, 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 do. And that's what they're designed for. And that's really hard to be like, oh, it was a wire under the floor, because
Mm-hmm.
a wire generally doesn't get up and move like that.
No.
And so for each individual light to light up individually, on and off and on and on and on, that was awesome. That's great. And I
And
mean,
it's
we
good.
do check, right?
Yeah.
We're like, is there anything under here wire wise? Because sometimes some lights stay on and you realize, okay, that's because there's a wire under here.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. And
I
that's the
love
one thing,
those.
like, you can't just totally rely all the time that the equipment is going to be 100%.
Hmm.
You have to make sure that you're looking at everything that's in your environment to rule out,
Hmm.
right, what may or may not be. So yeah,
Exactly.
and those are good for finding things that even like museums and stuff don't know. They'll be like, oh, I didn't realize that was there. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Don't be banging into this wall because you'll electrocute yourself.
Yeah, shocky shock.
Yeah. But no, I
Oh.
really like the strip lights. I think they're one of our staple use when we can, but
Mm-hmm.
it's great.
Mm-hmm.
It is great. I like those.
Oh, I'm just trying to think of what other lights we have. Well, we do have those little. Well, we have the EMF sensor puck, and
Hmm.
the temperature one too, which we don't really use because it's always in and out. Like,
Mm.
we haven't been
Yeah.
anywhere where we've been told there's cold spots or anything, but we should probably use it more often.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
but that little EMF sensor puck likes to beep a lot.
Yeah, that one's really cool.
Yeah. Again, it's just like a K2, but it's in a pod, and yeah, it just lights up and beeps and blips and screams at
Hmm.
us, just like a lot of our equipment likes to yell at us.
Now we also have, I assume this would be under lights, the green grid light
Mm,
thing that we don't use very often,
no.
mainly because, well, I always end up blinding myself with it because you're like, hey, and it
Look at
takes,
this.
because you've got to kind of have a room that you can just splay it onto like the perimeter of the wall
Mm,
and then leave it, and it's tricky
mhm.
sometimes. And
And the
again, we got to sit there and stare at it.
Yeah. And the thing with
So,
that too is we can't take it across the border because lasers, you can't bring lasers back and forth. So I have to make sure that and that's why it's
huh,
hardly ever in our equipment, because I have to make sure I take it out because I forget everything, like lanterns all the time. So I would just forget that it's in there. And if we ever got stopped at the border, well, I don't want that.
that's how I would never have even known that. Now
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what's in my equipment? But I don't think I have a laser.
Yeah. That
Whoop.
there's a piece of equipment Jay was looking at for something, and they refused to let us buy it because they would have to ship it obviously over the border, and it's a no because it's a laser. Yeah,
Okay.
I know. We have
Okay.
weird border rules, but yeah. Um, so what do you think about the ovuluses?
Okay. So,
Because we do have an Ovulus 3 and we do have an Ovulus 5. Obviously, they're the same. Obviously, haha, made it funny. They're the same thing except one is the older version and one is the newer version.
mhm.
They just like to spit out words.
So, I mean, as with anything, sometimes you have to take it with a grain of salt. And sometimes you're like, what? Like, we had oyster catcher come up the other day, and we're like, okay, what? But I suppose, I mean, we've had stuff that's been dead on and so incredible, and we're just like, whoa. Um, but it blows my mind how it's made, right? Because
Mm,
basically it's different fluctuations in what temperature readings and EMF, and
energy.
then that's given a number, and that number is
Yeah.
given a word, and so when the all of it comes together, it spits out that number and word. What? Like that in itself, I'm like, huh? So I
Monkey
mean,
though.
how do they how do they know that when the spirit has made it cold, then that means that they're saying Lumpty Dumpty? Like I don't know. So it's tricky because we've had incredible
Yeah.
conversations with it. And then other times we're like, are you drunk? Because what are you talking about now?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what the heck?
Hmm. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's a great piece to have because it's visual. It also sounds the word. I don't know. It's still a cool thing to have.
It is. It is. And again, like we say with everything, like it's just another tool in the toolbox. Whether
Mhm,
it's making sense or it's not making sense, we're gonna take a look at it and see what's going on and come to our own conclusions.
mhm.
Um, but we're not gonna take what we come to and be like, yay, community
Exactly.
members,
They were an
this is
oyster catcher.
this is what it is. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oyster catcher. Oh my god.
I know. It was hilarious. And the worst part is that was at Lang's we just had. It was so informative right up until that point, and then it spat out oyster catcher. And I'm
And
like,
everything just went out the
okay,
window.
yeah, I'm like, okay. But the
Oh
silly
my
thing
god.
is, again, maybe they're trying to say something, and that was
Yeah.
just the word that came up with it. I don't know.
Yeah,
And
for
maybe
sure.
there isn't a word assigned for what they were trying to say. I don't
Maybe.
know.
Maybe.
I
Well,
just don't know. But I would say that's in one of my top
yeah.
choices to have for sure.
Yeah. The Tempest. Nothing. I love it.
Yeah.
I do, but it freezes all the time and you have to reset it because it'll just stop working.
Hmm.
I don't
I
know why.
find it also seems to spit out a lot of the same thing,
Yes.
which I don't know if that's just because it's reading the energy and the energy is the same, so it just keeps reading it. But
Hmm.
after a while, you're like, okay, open the window. I'm like, for the love of God, knows opening a damn window. Maybe the spirit is like, someone open the window. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a
Somebody.
menopausal spirit, and we're just like, do, 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 do. But
Yeah.
it does, there's a lot, it's almost, I don't want to say recycles like through a loop, because that's not it at all. But sometimes you're like, you've already said that.
Yeah.
So,
That's true. That's true. But
mhm,
that Tempest is also, it does temperature and EMF as well. And I don't think we've ever used
Mm-hmm.
it for either one other than phrases, because it has the
Mm-hmm.
option to say like phrases. So yeah, so it's not on the top of my list, but it's still a pretty cool device to have.
Mm-hmm.
Again, another tool in the toolbox just to kind of use and see what we can get with it.
Yeah, I used to really love it. That was one of the things I would grab for right away. Because
Yeah,
again, it's it's showing the word or phrase and it's saying something, and you're like,
Mhm.
ooh, you feel like you're really communicating with something. But then after a while, I was just like, well,
Yeah, yeah.
and because it would freeze, and you're like, oh,
Restart. And then
reboot.
you get the same damn words over again.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of words, the ghost box, the PSP. So we have the PSP 7, we have the PSP 11, which is Allison's, and then we have the PSP 7 Pro, which is the newest one. That allows you to slow a lot of stuff down. So it's pretty cool. That, I think, out of everything, is like my favorite piece of equipment to use, because I like to hear audio,
Mm-hmm.
hear the different voices, the different words, the different tones, things you can't say on the radio in Canada.
Oh man, I
That one.
love it when they get saucy.
Ah, so that, I think that one is, and like for those who don't know how it works, the Ghost Box or the PSP 7s and 11s, they run through radio frequencies at a super high rate of speed. So that's where you get your white noise. So we run ours between 90 and 110 milliseconds per station. So it's like the really fast. So and then they say ghosts and spirits can manipulate that white noise and use that to talk through, and use the radio waves and all that to talk through. So that's where you'll hear your men, women, children, young, old, accents, swear words. Yeah. So I think that one's pretty interesting. I think we've gotten some
I
really good responses with that as well.
well, and I mean, the fact that sometimes we get the same voices
Mm-hmm.
come through and we're in totally different locations, different day, different time. It can't be the radio. It can't be. Like, these are distinct spirits that we know come through to talk to us for whatever. And let's not forget when we had the Asian gentleman who Allison couldn't figure out
Mm-hmm.
who was speaking. And then the girl from the documentary who just happened to be there that day that spoke Cantonese, I think it was, and was like,
Mandarin.
yes, I know what he's saying. And then had a full conversation with this person. And we were like, what?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a completely no one to do with our group, nothing. And she
No.
understood him. And it's not like you said, it's going through so fast,
Yeah.
and there's like phrases coming through that she's picking
Yeah.
up on.
And she could understand the dialect and
Yep.
that it was an older dialect of that language and what era that may have came from. So
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty cool. So I think that's like my ultimate like favorite one. I could just sit there all night and listen to it. Like, and of course you can't do an Estes method without
I
the ghost
know.
box.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Exactly.
when you and Allison do dual, like you're not plugged into the same ghost box. You have two totally separate ghost boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they may be going through the same radio stations at the same rate of speed, but not at the same time, because one of them is always started before the other. And if it
Exactly.
happens to be at the same time, that's just like coincidence, if you want to call it, that they're doing it together. But yeah, so there's been some really interesting conversations and self-arguments.
I know. Those are the best. I honestly think that's our feature right there, is doing the dual Estes,
Dual
because it's great. And it takes some time sometimes to be able to, you've almost got to like let yourself flow into hearing it, because otherwise you could be like, I'm just hearing noise, or you'll be like, everything's a word. But after a while, you suddenly realize, oh, okay,
Yeah,
it's like, remember those pictures that they're all just dots, and then you like somehow do something with your eyes, and then a 3D image comes through?
Yeah,
That's how I feel like it is.
I could never do those. I still can't do them.
Okay, well, never mind. But
Yeah.
that's how I feel like the spirit box is you got to just kind of not listen for it to come through.
Exactly. And that's a lot of things too with any equipment or even investigating. If you're looking too hard for it, you're going to miss it. right? So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, so that is like my favorite piece of equipment. Now we have the dead bell. That thing
Yes.
is something else. No matter how many times you are prepared for it, it will always scare you the first time it goes off in the night. Always. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a great new feature. And
Yeah.
that thing can be dead all night. And other times it won't shut up.
No, not at
And you're
all.
like, okay. And again, when it's responding and it's being quiet the whole time, and then all of a sudden you start interacting with the spirit, and then it starts connecting through that bell, and you're asking it, questions, and it's
Mhm.
tinging immediately. Phenomena. It's great. It's great. And it's an EMF detector,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
it's supposed to measure EMF. EMF. Oh my gosh, it's getting late. Uh, and then it uses something. There's magnets or something on the inside, and then it just measures the EMF and dings for that.
Mm-hmm.
But they
No,
can
it's
also,
great.
manipulate it too if they wanted to. They can just ding it that way. So you never really know.
Yeah.
I'd
I
like to see it manipulated and keep turned off and have it ding. I might crap myself, but
It would be awesome.
I can't wait.
The best was the other night. So that's another thing when it starts to lose its power, like when it is to be charged, it makes this creepy knocking sound.
Mhm.
And we were in the church at Skugog, and all of a sudden we could hear just this knock. And we're like, oh my God, it's happening. Something's going on. And for the longest time, we're all around. And it didn't occur to me at first it's coming from the bell, because I'm just waiting for the bell to go ting, ting, ting. Because all night it was good. But as soon as we got to the church, it just drained. And so it started ticking, because I guess the mechanism inside is trying to do something.
Mhm.
And so finally we found it, and then we all laughed. But it was creepy for a second. And if you crank it on too high, like I discovered once, it goes insane. And then you're like, the spirits are going crazy, because it's like ting, 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 ting.
Yeah. Oh my god. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And now I think we've talked about everything that. Oh no, we haven't. Visual now.
Oh, we haven't talked about the music box.
Oh shit. Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, the music box. The
yeah.
creepy little music box that nobody likes because
I
they couldn't have
know.
found a creepier sound. I
It's
love it.
so cute. I
I,
like the music box.
I do. I love it. I love it when it goes off. I hate it when it won't stop.
Yeah. And that's, yes.
It's like, just either get away from it or something is malfunctioning or there's a bug or something. It just drives me nuts when it just keeps going and going and going and going and going.
Yeah. That's a weird, now that you say that, like we've had so many times that it's been amazing, but then it just goes crazy. And I wonder if it's just the ghost is just standing there and
Yeah.
you're like, get out of the way. Or what it is. But I do love the music box, because when it goes off, it's the creepiest
Yeah.
thing.
And the best part is when you put it in a room and you walk away and then it starts going off and you all
God.
run back to see it and it stops.
Yep. But you can all go, we heard that, we heard that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's creepy.
Yeah. They couldn't have
Mm-hmm.
found any other type of song other than creepy old music box to put in the creepy new music box.
Yeah.
So yeah. That one I think is up there in my arsenal.
Mm-hmm. I
That I,
think it's in our staple, like top 5 that we always put
yeah.
out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and again, it's audio, so when people hear it, they're like, "Oh my god!"
Mm-hmm.
So,
And like you said, it can be left and walk away, and you don't have to be staring at it to know.
no.
You can put it down, walk away, and then if you hear it, you know,
Mhm.
and away you go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then we have the SLS camera, so structured
Mm,
light sensor camera. Um, it's also another big ghost and paranormal investigating tool where it runs off the Xbox Connect. and it is set to map out human form through the Xbox onto the tablet screen, and it's not meant to map out anything but human form, so it shouldn't map out a chair or a table um, as a stick figure. Now it will map out a mannequin. Obviously, that's a human form. But yeah, to see stuff, just pop out of nowhere and wave or cram themselves into like so at Kawartha Settlers Village in the Dugan house, there is a little doll pram. There's no doll in it. There's nothing, but there always seems to be a stick figure in it, and it's always trying to it looks like it's trying to hide, but then at some points it looks like it's trying to get out.
Yep.
Right? Like, oh, they can see me, I better move type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but it's a good visualization, and again, how many false positives, does it show? But it's all how you're going to take it in and you're going to investigate it, right?
Mm-hmm. Like
So
I think we do a good job of, if it's mapping something, we're trying to say, okay, well, what's there that it could map out?
Mhm.
But it's when it starts to move around, that's when we're like, okay, so if it was just mapping out the coat stand, let's say,
Mhm.
why is it moving? And not just like a limb, but like getting bigger, getting smaller, moving to the side, coming back again.
Mhm.
Like that's when it's really interesting. Like the thing
Yeah.
we always catch in the barn at
Yeah.
Kawarthas that moves around. It climbs the posts
Mm.
sometimes,
And
or
that
it's
yeah,
sitting and then it's standing and then it looks like it's hanging, and you're like,
yeah, and it kind of
okay.
corroborates that story, that rumor that somebody had hung themselves in that barn at some point. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe the rumor or the story is got a bit of truth to it,
Yeah. Like
right?
that's a great one, like you said, visually, and especially if we do public events. I mean, we love it, but public events, because then people are like, ooh, because you
Yeah.
can't see anything,
Yeah.
and then something's there on camera. It's amazing.
Surprise. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Before I talk about the newest piece of equipment that we have, we do have Boo Buddy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
forget them.
Teddy Pod. Um, so for those who don't know, Teddy Pod is a smaller bear. He's literally a REM pod, but he's a bear. He's never gone off a day in my life. I've had him for a few years. I just want some dead person to grab him and make him scream.
Wow.
He's
We
never gone.
just gotta use him all the time now.
Yeah, I think so too. Except I broke the zipper on the back of him, and his insides just like to come out.
Oh my God.
That. But yeah, he's never gone off. So yeah, I don't know. I just want him to go off. But
Next time.
then we have Boo Buddy, who, he senses vibration and temperature, and then he also has like all these random questions that he just asks periodically. I think it's like every couple minutes or so. So he's good to stick in a room by himself with a recorder, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes his questions correlate to what we're talking about or
Mm-hmm.
what we're experiencing, which is kind of really strange. Um, and then of course when he starts asking questions, you can't help but answer them yourself. Like, you know, it's,
And to be honest, he's a bit creepy too, because it's like a
yeah,
little child's voice. And when he's all alone in a room and we've wandered off, and then we hear, like to play with dolls or whatever, and you're like,
yeah.
what? So
Who is
even
that?
though it's his random questions, you're
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah, like I said, his
yeah.
random questioning will come on, and it's not set like in order. They just come out randomly. Like when I first got him, I was working at the escape room in Oshawa, and it's haunted, right? The building
Mm-hmm.
was haunted, and I was upstairs in the attic setting up a room, and I was like, I'm gonna bring Boo Buddy with me. I'm gonna bring him up here. I'm turn him on and see what happens. And I turned him on, and I put him in the chair, and I'm setting up everything. And I bend down to turn the music on, and he's like, I like music. What's your favorite song? And I just
Oh
looked,
my
turned
gosh.
my head and looked at him, and I went, You're creepy, bear. And I just continued on. Like, there's no way he doesn't have anything visual. Like, he can't see what you're doing. At least I hope
Right.
he can't see what you're doing. Because if he does, he spends a lot of time in the backpack, so he sees nothing.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so he's an interesting tool. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I wish he would interact more with more things of what he's sensing. Not just, I like holding hands with you when he's feeling a vibration, or Brr, did you make it cold in here? If he's feeling a temperature change, right?
Right.
Wish there was more to him than what he is, so to say. So that's just my feeling on him. I do like him, but I just like more.
Well, maybe we'll for sure have to use them a bit more and see. Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe
definitely.
he's mad because he spends his life in a backpack.
Well, he used to live in one of the cases, but unfortunately, we got more equipment that needs to go in the case. So he now lives in a backpack. Yeah. Poor Boo Buddy. But, anyways, and then I think our latest, I want to say it is our latest. So Ryan went out. So this is Ryan's equipment, but he uses it with the team. But it's a pretty interesting piece of equipment. And I really don't know quite exactly how it works yet. I'm still trying to read up on it. But it's from Ghost Tube. And it's a VR headset.
Okay.
And you like plug it into like this app or something on your phone. I don't know. You obviously wear it, and you're not moving. You're sitting still, and like you can do like your SDs and everything with it. So you can put your headphones on and listen. But it will generate pictures and show you the pictures, and like you can look up and down and look around at them and see what they're showing. I don't know how it reads or what it does to get these pictures, but I did try it at the Beck House, and it was very interesting. And then Ryan did it too, and he didn't know this at the time, but he was doing the SDs. We're asking questions, and he's sitting there, and he's saying like, "Oh, I have a picture coming through. It's 5 men sitting at the tables. You got one gentleman on one side, and like the other 4 are sitting in front of them. They're sitting at a table. It looks like they're having a business meeting, and behind the one gentleman is a woman, and she's standing there with her hands on her shoulders, all that." And I was like, "Holy crap!" I'm like, "So Mr. Beck, so Charles Beck, obviously had a wife, but she died sadly when she was young, and he was a business owner. He owns lots of mills. He was super high up there, politician, all of that, and he had, was it 9 children or something, 8 or 9 children, and when he died, 4 of his sons took over his businesses.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was really, and he didn't know that. And like, but he was describing like this man. He's like, "Oh, he's like got, a goatee. He's got like full blah blah blah," and he's like describing, Charles Beck to a T, just from looking
So,
at the picture. He had no idea.
so you can see that much detail. I thought it was like an type situation, but it's like full on, like you're looking at a video of someone.
Yeah, I'll show you. I think he sent me the photo. Like he said, like
Yeah.
he can download some of the photos. He's got to pay a premium subscription, but um, they're definitely interesting. And like he
Wow.
had like, and he had this like picture of a house, like a giant house, and it almost looked like the Beck house come through while we were there. So,
Wow.
yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah. And then it showed a picture, like when I was wearing it, it showed it twice, and it showed a picture of a girl sitting on the floor watching a TV, and I did that pretty much all night
Oh
after.
my God.
So yeah, I was like, oh wow, cool. But yeah, so that's that new one. But yeah. And then we also have some apps on our phones. And I know a lot of people out there are really wary about apps,
Mhm.
like ghost hunting apps. Some are okay. Some I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Do not get ghost radar. For the love of God. Oh my
What do
gosh.
you mean?
Oh no, there's a ghost beside you.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
that one, I don't know. But like we have like necrophonic, which, again, another tool in the toolbox. It's just like the ghost box. It just doesn't have the white noise in the background. It filters through some voices and stuff. But we've got some really interesting responses on that one.
Mhm.
And then Spirit Talker is just like an obulus. It says some pretty interesting things, some
Mhm.
weird things like Spanish donkey.
Yeah. I still don't know. I'm
or,
afraid to Google it, but okay.
or or when we were, where were we? At Lang's? Were we at Lang's? Was it Lang's?
For what?
For the spirit? No. Yeah, I think it was where it told me to eat shit.
No, that was Skoogog in the log cabin.
Was it?
Yeah, I think
It
so.
was one of the nights. It was one of the public investigation nights. Oh no, it was the barn. It was like, eat shit.
Oh
Hi,
yeah,
my name's Ethel. Thanks, Ethel.
that's amazing.
It was so funny. But yeah, so it does give good responses, interesting ones at times. Very, yeah, it's one of those ones where again you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Hmm.
Kind of really look into what you're investigating in that kind of situation and go from there. Um, those are the only. Well, I have necro dice on my phone, but that's like
Entertainment purposes.
pretty much for myself.
Yeah. I think I have Necrometer, I think, which is basically, it's just like, that's kind of like the Tempest. It just spits out phrases and
Mhm.
words sometimes. And yeah, it's hit and miss.
Yeah, but like, don't just a PSA. Don't buy ghost radar for your phone. Still get your kids ghost radar. Terrifies them. They think there's dead people around them all the time. It's
I
just
did have, I had, it was from Ghost Tube and it was like an SLS on my phone.
Mhm.
And it seemed to be fairly good because I would use it in conjunction with someone using the SLS camera, and it would pick up the same things. But
Mhm.
I did find it would easily map out things that were very easily debunked.
Oh
You'd
yeah.
be like, okay, that's a coat. You can clearly see that. And it's like, no, it's a person. But I did like that. Like it was fairly
Mhm.
fun, but then it turned into suddenly you had to start paying and couldn't use the features. And I get it. They want to make money off their app. No worries. Michelle was using one the other day. I don't know what her one was, but she seemed to think it was a
It
great
was
one.
like LiDAR or something like that.
I
Something
haven't
like
looked into that, so I don't know
yeah, I don't know
exactly what
much
it
about it
is.
either. But like this entire paranormal field is always changing and there's new equipment coming out all the time. And some of them, like I said, a little ridiculous,
Hmm.
but may or may not work. Um, and the thing with us here in Canada is that we don't have these stores. We don't have this stuff.
I
Like if
know.
we're gonna order something, it's gonna come from like it's coming from the States, it's coming from Amazon. And really the only thing you're gonna really order off of Amazon is gonna be a K2 meter or ghost balls.
Hmm.
Like you can order
And
other stuff, but it's
yeah,
still expensive.
it
Because
is ridiculously expensive. I
it is.
know.
It is. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Boo Buddy, but man, he I think he was like 300 and something dollars. This is
Hmm.
years ago. Years ago. The Ovilus 5 was like 500 bucks.
Yep.
Don't
Well,
get me on how much that SLS camera was because
I
people
won't.
don't even make that a month.
And then what was the other thing we were just looking at? The Geoport,
Oh yes, the
which
Geoport. I
I
want
really
one.
want to try, but
Yeah,
not paying stupid money for.
yeah. I don't have that kind of money.
Hmm.
No,
Oh
no.
well.
That's a lot of money, but I really, really want one. Really bad. Or even one of the portals. Like I'd love to try a portal. Um, and I know it runs off a ghost box.
Hmm.
I don't I it's $1,000. I don't know. I can't.
Yeah,
Gotta get Jay on some of this stuff
I
because he can
know.
make
You could
one.
totally make some.
He totally could. So we have to get him on that. But that's just the downfall of paranormal equipment is we can't buy it up here. We used to
Hmm.
have a paranormal store. There used to be a Canadian paranormal store. It's where I got the Ovilus from, the Ovilus 3,
Hmm.
but it's gone. It's been gone for years. So, but we can only pretty much order things from like Ghost Stop and the Ghost Hunter store, which is all in the States.
Right.
And they do make good products. It's just it sucks that we have to pay shipping, taxes, exchange, and all of that just to get it.
Yeah, no kidding.
But we do what we do.
Oh well. I think we have a really good base of stuff that we use,
Hmm.
and anything other than that is kind of, you know, extra
Yeah.
cool fun stuff. And like you said, things change all the time. So it's great to be innovative and not just be like, no, I'm using dowsing rods and that's it. Because as things change, and because still to this day, there's really no definitive, this is what a ghost is. So
Mhm.
everything has to kind of keep evolving and changing. And now we're knowing more about energy and how to manipulate it or
Yeah,
how to, identify it. So
yeah,
as things change and we can afford it, it's great to add new pieces. I love it.
yeah. And it's just like not one thing is always going to be the one thing.
Hmm.
Ghosts and spirits, just like humans or living people, I shouldn't say humans, but they tend to choose what they like the most, right? So what
Absolutely.
may work at one place is not going to work at another, vice versa.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's just one of those things. It's always going to be changing, and I know there's a lot of stuff in our like boxes and bags that we don't use a lot of anymore, because we're moving on to the next generation of equipment, and it's always going to be like that. But my thing
Hmm.
is like when people ask us all the time, what is the best piece of equipment to go ghost hunting with? Like, what do you suggest that we purchase? Um, you are your best piece of equipment,
Hmm.
right? But really, in all honesty, all you need is the basics: camera, video, and still an audio recorder, maybe an EMF detector. That's pretty much all we started with, and we had some amazing results. So
Hmm.
really, you don't need all the fancy gadgets to go paranormal investigating.
Exactly. It's just more stuff to have to go through
Yeah.
and look at all the things and then try and debunk what it is that you're looking at. But yeah,
And then remember to charge it all and then
oh my
pack
gosh.
it and buy
And then
batteries for
oh,
it.
and try and repack it at the end of the night.
Oh
That's
my gosh.
honestly a lot of our investigation
Yeah.
is unpacking and repacking stuff and making sure we have it all.
That's why Cortez Other Village still has a ghost ball somewhere.
Exactly. Exactly. But it is
Oh my gosh.
it's it is fun using the stuff. I'm not gonna
It
lie.
is. It is.
So,
It is very fun. And it's even more funner and more intriguing when you get responses that correlate to history or what
mhm,
you're doing at the time. Yeah.
absolutely.
Except when your name gets called and things are said about you that you're just like, no,
Mhm.
no, thank you.
That's very true. Unless
So
it's in a good way. And then you're like,
yeah.
yay. But yeah, when they're like, die, and you're like, I don't
I'm
want
with
to.
you. Stay with me.
Exa-
That one's mine, the blonde.
yes, we're keeping the blonde. She's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
allowed to leave. Oh,
great.
okay.
Fabulous.
Time to go.
And then we will come back a few times.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so that is our equipment and equipment we use and stuff that we like. And we do like everything. There's not really anything that we don't like. And we're always willing to try any new pieces. Hint, hint, if anybody wants.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that is our equipment. Oh, we didn't even talk about the Estes method.
Well, we kind of did, but yeah, we didn't.
Bit, bit.
Well, no, we did. We did kind of mention what it is. I mean, other than yelling out what's coming through the ghost box, I mean, that's what it is.
It's great. It's great. If you we'll talk more about Estes when we do like our investigations. Like when we talk about our investigations on future podcasts, we'll go into what Estes is and how it played out, just like in St. Mary's. Oh my gosh. Oh, but yeah, but if you have a piece of equipment you want us to test, like feel free to, let us know, send it, or even tell us about it. We are down for anything. Um, but yeah, so I guess that's our chat
Yeah.
for today. Um, what is next week? No, next week is the Hillary House. Ooh, with
Oh,
special guest Allison.
I love it.
So yeah, so we'll be
Oh,
talking about the Hillary House. Um, yeah, that's gonna be fun. That's gonna air the day after we come back from our investigation.
sweet.
I know, I can't wait. Yay! But yeah, so
Well,
if anybody wants to get a hold of us or tell us about new equipment or is interested in, letting us try theirs. Send us an email at paranormal at paranormal podcast@gmail.com. PAREHNORMAL podcast at gmail.com. You can always check us out on our Facebook and Instagram pages, and then every once in a while we post on TikTok because I'm still learning it.
Yeah.
Because I'm old.
We're 40, so we haven't got to the TikTok yet, okay? Give us a break.
Yes. So, but yeah, so I guess everybody have a great week because now it's after Halloween when this airs.
Boop.
We're in November. I don't know what time. But anyways, all right, guys, have a great time. Have a great week. And we will see you soon. Bye.